Big difference. It's amazing. Going from old paint. This almost feels like sandpaper. It's so bad. You come into here, it's almost like feels like it's waxed or something. It's just so slick. It's amazing what this does. Alright guys, this is going to be the start of the Cadillac paint correction series. I'm going to start here. This is episode 1, doing a little decon on it. I'm not going to go super in depth on it. It's just going to be a simple iron remover from Adams, and then I'll wash it and do a Adams clay bar on it, and then the next episode I'll do some paint polishing, paint correction, and see what. And I'll be using Adams products on that also. See what we get out of that. I've already pre-wetted the car. I'm using a McGuire's Shampoo Plus. It doesn't mention anything about having, glossing or, like a protectant in it. It just says shampoo. There's nothing about it that says it's going to add a layer of protection. So it should be okay for stripping the car. The car's paint's in pretty terrible condition. A lot of swirls and scratches, a lot of sap on it. I'm going to try to get off here. Using a microfiber mitt from Adams. I have to really put a lot in the mitt itself. I don't measure this. Just use more than I think I need. Doing a 2-bucket method. One with clean soapy water, one with green cement. I will be upgrading the buckets and my hose system here. Well, ideally a pressure washer, but not at the moment. I never used an iron remover before, so I don't really exactly know how to use it. There's really no directions on here, but I figure it sounds like you just spray it on and let it sit and rinse it off. But we'll be playing with it here and see what happens. Just about used the whole bottle on that. I don't know if that's too much or not. We got a dedicated wheel cleaner from McGuire's, wheel and tire cleaner. What I don't have is any brushes to clean wheels and tires. Definitely something I need to get here. I'll just use an old mitt for now. I haven't removed it, it doesn't seem to be turning purple yet. Alright, I got the first wheel done. I'll go ahead and finish the rest of the wheels, and this iron remover I don't think is really doing much for this paint. None of it's turning purple. So I'll get it all rinsed off, do the rest of the wheels, and come back here. Alright, got all the iron remover rinsed off. Again, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but that's what I'm doing it for, is to learn. So I feel like I put way too much on, but I got it all rinsed off, and then you're supposed to know it's working by if it's turning purple, I suppose, but I didn't really see any purple stuff. Got all the wheels and tires clean, and now it's just down to a basic wash. I don't have a foam cannon or anything, just a regular hand mitt. Tons of sap on the car. Washing it ain't gonna take it off. That's gonna be later. got the whole car washed off now, and just need to dry it and get it inside for the next step. Which would be nice if it was just the clay bar, but there's a ton of sap on this car that I'm gonna have to clean off with some adhesive remover, some 3M adhesive remover, before I clay it, and then clay it next. So I'm gonna get ready for polishing. But it cleaned up pretty good, other than the sap. But it's getting dark, so I'll get it dry and inside. Get ready for the next part. Alright, the car is all clean and dried. Actually, this is another day now. I like to let the car completely dry, so I've got water coming out of places while I'm working on it. And unfortunately, the next step is to remove sap. I didn't realize it was so bad on this car until I washed it, but there is just sap everywhere, and it's pretty horrendous to think about having to remove all this. But what I'm going to use is 3M general purpose adhesive remover. I've tried a few different kinds from 3M before, and this one's was a good compromise on price and how well it performs and how safe it is on paint. It works pretty good, so we'll try it and see if it even works on tree sap. Usually the stuff works better when you let it sit, but sometimes it doesn't really penetrate unless you work it in. I'm just going to use my fingers mostly. I don't want to use paper towels on the paint, make it worse than it already is. And that actually took it off right there. So it left a little bit of etching though, but hopefully compounding will fix that. I think that's about as much as the adhesive remover is going to do. Yeah, it's definitely, you can feel the paint's like either raised or dipped in or something there. So I'll go ahead and do the rest of these. Don't need to videotape all this because there's a lot. And I'll come back for the clay bar. Alright, all sap warts are removed. They were, it looked like warts. There was like a bubble, tall bubble of sap. And I probably cleaned off 100 of them things. There was a lot of them. All over the windows, of course, too. And on the sides of the car, they would run down and it would give you a whole bunch more to try and scrape off. But they're all gone, and it's ready for clay bar now. I'll be using Adam's Visco clay. Comes with a handle, if you will. I think the idea is to just stretch this over and around this so you got something to hold on to. So I'll start that here, and then of course need to use a lubricant with it, like Adam's detail spray. Got plenty of it, so we'll start pulling contaminants out of this paint and then get a real good idea of what we're working with before we compound it. It's rough, I tell you what. It's a lot worse than I was expecting. I'll see if I can get a good focus on it here. I'm sure you can almost see it right now. Anyways. anyways, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's tons of marks and scratches. All those dots and, you know, little circles and stuff you're seeing are paint blemishes. They don't come off. It's paint blemishes that will need to be buffed out. And yeah, I'll probably do half the hood or something and have a before and after. See what happens here. But this paint is super rough. It's all there. It really is. The car is in good shape. It's not much in the way of dents or deep scratches. It just needs a little paint correction. But we'll really see what we're working with once we got it clay barred, and move on to the fun part, making it look good again. Okay, we got our clay wrapped around the grip. I've used clay quite a bit actually, and it's really a process you don't need to spend a lot of time on. You can feel it grab the dirty paint, and as soon as it's pulled out what it, you know, everything can possibly pull out, the surface turns slick. But when you first start on the paint, you can definitely feel it super grabby, pulling all that contaminant out. And we're already getting a good amount of dirt on there. But like I said, it's not necessary to run it over an area a whole bunch. You just need to wait until it stops grabbing. Then, of course, on a fairly often basis here, you want to turn it to a clean side. Keep it fresh. You know, you'll need it in every once in a while too. But keep turning it over. Use fresh clay. Big difference. It's amazing. Going from old paint, this almost feels like sandpaper. It's so bad. And coming to here, it's almost like feels like it's waxed or something. It's just so slick. It's amazing what this does. That's it gives us a surface basically that's ready to polish or compound first. I've got a mixture here. I call it a poor man's Car Pro eraser. It's just some 99% IPA mixed with distilled water. Something I'll use to clean the surface before I compound. Gets it nice and clean. I use like roughly a 50-50 mix on on the IPA. It's probably a little bit more normal, but I like it to evaporate fast. I don't want water just sitting, waiting for it to dry. I don't feel like it's too abrasive to the paint either. But now I'll go ahead and do the rest of the car in the same way and get it ready for some compounding. A quick tip here I was thinking about. It's definitely important to stay focused on one panel as you're doing anything. Really, was just washing the car, or clay barn, or polishing. I've found that it's really important to find a panel you're working on. Of course, the hood. There's a lot easy way to find a section to stay focused on. You just work on a bumper, the hood, a fender. You got your sections here. It's all marked out with these body lines, of course, and that way you don't miss anything. If you're doing a little bit on the hood, of course, and you figure you're getting close to the bumper, so you do a little bit on the bumper, but then you work back up here into the fender. It's easy to get lost of what you've already done. Of course, you could find it by feel or look, but I just find it's much easier to stay focused on one panel before you move on to any part of the next panel, and it just keeps it easier to keep track of what you're doing. Freshly kneaded. I've already kneaded it, flipped it over, kind of worked it in 3 or 4 times already. I don't know if I already mentioned it, but this is detail spray. You don't need a ton. Honestly, this stuff's not cheap. You don't need to waste it. Just enough to make this thing slide. You don't need to put a whole bunch on there. Feel it grab all the contaminants out, pulling all the dirt out of the clear coat. And it makes it nice and slick. Glides really nicely after everything's pulled off with the paint. Again, you don't need to do it a whole bunch, just waiting to get that slickness. Alright guys, that concludes the decon process of this Cadillac. I've got it 2-bucket washed. Well, I suppose I iron removed it first, then 2-bucket washed. Let it completely dry. Did a sap removal, and then a Adams Visco clay. And it's definitely a lot smoother paint now. It feels very clean. It looks very clean. But you can see, even from here, the paint is in dire need of that next step. So that concludes this video. The decon process is done. It's ready for compounding next. Well, I gotta clean it first. This is the IPA and distilled water mix. I won't do it right now because I'm not going to do it tonight. So I'll do this right before I start compounding, and that way it's freshly cleaned. And then we'll start the process with the Adams 3-step process. The heavy correction compound, because it's going to need it. Correction polish and finishing polish, and of course I've got all the masking pads for it. So we'll start that in the next video and start seeing some results here. And If you like what you see, please subscribe and catch me on the next video. Thank you.